Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Stephen here from GGS Gamer, and in a nice cool room here in Gamescom in Cologne. And I'm sat down with RedBedlam. We have Chris and Nick from RedBedlam. How are you doing?
Cool. Well, we're enjoying the chaos of Gamescom.
This is your first time here, isn't it? How's it been for you?
Yeah, it's my first time doing any sort of games exhibition event. I'm from the world of crime fiction most of the time, so it's a wee bit more civilised, fewer numbers, but no, it's been fantastic.
Fantastic. So you're here with your new game, Bedlam. It's based on your own novel. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's a game about the evolution of the first-person shooter. We wanted to explore the way the FPS has changed over the years. So it's the storyline is that it begins with your character transported inside the world of a video game. And the character recognises the game. She realises she's in this 90s FPS that she used to play when she was younger. And obviously the big question is, how does she get there and how does she get out? And she discovers that she's in this interlinked world of games, and that allows her to explore all these different first-person shooter environments and different first-person shooter aesthetics and different ethos. So she finds herself going from a 90s style run and gun shooter, then the next time maybe she's in a Second World War cover shooter with thigh-high walls and barricades, evolving all the way to the modern sort of state-of-the-art sort of Halo type sci-fi outdoors environment shooter. And it's about those conventions and cliches and all the things that we loved about the games, but looking at how those have changed over the years.
Brilliant, fantastic. I mean, it's quite an interesting project where we have the author of a book taking his own book into a fully fledged game. How's that journey been for you? I mean, it's quite unique.
Well, you should ask Nick, because he's the one that kicked it off.
So I basically was a big fan of Chris's, and so read all of his crime fiction books, and a lot of them reference computer games. And it's actually a book he did, Pandemonium, that I finally kind of got the courage. I thought, I've got to send this guy an email. And as a developer, we're always looking for ideas, and I kind of thought, his books have such great ideas. I wonder if perhaps he's got an idea for a computer game, he's wanted to make all of his life. So I wrote this great big long email. Subject line was, how would you like to make a computer game? And I got a phone call the next day saying, thanks for the lovely long email, but actually you had me at the subject line. And so we met up a few months later in London when Chris was down seeing his publisher, and we just kind of hit it off really at that point. And we were talking about how games, what they meant to us, how we've grown up with them, and that's where the kind of seed of the idea came from. And yeah, fortunately, we have a great writer to kind of bring that to life. So, but the original idea came from us just talking about our experiences with games, and
we were talking about things like how the games seem to be, the FPS seemed to be more fun back when it was all about running around, rocket jumping over your enemies and shooting them from above, and the more modern cover shooter was getting a bit dull. You've got all teams of artists creating these wonderful environments, and you don't see them because you're spending most of the game hiding behind a wall. And so we talked about that and said, how can we reflect the way the games have changed and kind of have our cake and eat it by having those worlds, those different genres, but still being able to have the sense of fast-paced action that we'd loved about the early FPS games.
Fantastic.
Why we as a concept, we thought it's important is to make people realise you're not just putting retro things in there for the sake of it. There's a story, and so you can see on this just now that we're in the 90s game, and then suddenly you encounter this glitch, and it takes you to these. This is a conduit between game worlds, and the idea being that everything's on, if you can imagine, a massive hard drive, and there's links between the games, and you can get from one game world to another. And part of the fun we thought for the player would be that you could take the weapons from one genre and you've still got them by the time you reach another. So you've got, for instance here, the player's been able to pick up a crossbow from an RPG that's fallen out of the RPG into this glitch world and take it back into a 90s shooter. Or you could take your 90s science fiction weapons into the Second World War.
Wow, it's certainly something else. I mean, like it's something I can't wait to take a look at myself. So we've got a really sort of in-depth story of the journey of video games. Who have we got giving that story a voice? Do we have some people in giving these characters a voice?
Well, the crucial thing is we've got a female protagonist, which is tragically such a rarity in the FPS in particular. And we thought it's a game that's paying homage to affectionate satire upon the conventions and cliches. We thought making the lead a woman would give another dimension to that. You can suddenly have all these jokes about the demeaning role that women have often had in these types of games. So we had this very strong female lead character called Athena, she's a gamer herself, but she's put up with no end of shit from male gamers down the years. And so she's very ballsy, she's very acerbic in her dialogue. And so to voice her, we've got Kirsty Strain, great Scottish actor who she featured in Burniston, this great cult Scottish comedy sketch show. So she plays her lead, but also her title character, Bedlam, who the heroine has to track down within the world of the game, is voiced by Rab Florence, who was one of the writers and performers from Burniston. So we've been very fortunate that we've got this great voice talent to bring the characters to life.
Definitely great to hear some good Scottish voices back in games again, I think. Instead of not being dwarves for once.
Oh, I know. Even as a joke, the aliens in the first few levels are called the Gralax, and I gave them all these sort of RP posh English accents. In the book, it talks about how the aliens seem to have all gone to some really posh schools. So we've got some Scottish voices in there because you seldom get that in video games.
Definitely. So the game's currently in development right now, and I gather it's on Steam Early Access right now. What's the plan with that?
Yeah, so we went Steam Early Access on Friday. It's a very long day, but yeah, we made it. Kind of left the office about 6 a.m. Saturday morning. It's on Early Access now for PC and Mac, and we're getting an extension to put it onto Xbox One and PS4. And the plan is to do that for around mid-January 2015 and to full release on those 4 platforms.
In time for Burns Night then.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting January for me. Yeah, I mean, it's schoolboy dream stuff. I've been growing up with video games to finally be involved so closely with creating one that I've now played through it and had a lot of fun with it. So yeah, this will be out January, just about the same time as my new novel. Right. So yeah, I'm going to be very busy in January.
Do you see yourself taking this idea that you've done with Bedlam with some of the novels you got in the future? Do you think you see with that journey again?
Absolutely. I mean, the great thing about Bedlam as a concept is that it opens up so many possibilities for sequels. The idea, we want feedback from gamers, because I think once they grasp this concept of mixing up genres, they'll be saying, well, could we have an FPS perspective where you're in FIFA, for instance, if you're in a sports game and suddenly you can mow down the footballers. So there's endless possibilities, because it's about not just about a multiplicity of games, but the concept is that people within these games have adapted them and morphed them into other things. So we can have any era, we can have any genre. So for me, there's so many possibilities. So I've got 2 ideas for sequel novels that I'd like to explore, but in terms of the sequel games, they've got so many possibilities.
Yeah, and we're hopefully planning. We're talking about the sequel now, and so this first Bedlam game is single player, and we're hoping if we do a sequel, it'll be a co-op, and where you play Bedlam and Athena. You could still play it single player with AI, and if everything goes to plan, then we do. So we're hoping it'll be a trilogy. That final game would be the multiplayer. So that's kind of a rough plan at the moment.
Fantastic. That sounds like there's a lot to look forward to, which is absolutely amazing. Let's round off with one last little bit of a fun question. So I'll ask the 2 of you individually on this one. So if there's a novel or a short story or a piece of medium out there that you're quite a big fan of, that you think would make a fantastic game, what would it be?
Snow Crash. Neil Stevenson.
Is that your idea?
I knew you'd say that. Knew it.
Yeah, it's just it was so much ahead of its time in envisaging the rise of 3D environments and the internet. But at the same time, there's so many great gaming possibilities within that whole area of the raft. But I'll let you have Snow Crash. Tell you what, China Mayville's new Crobuzon, Baslag novels. The possibilities for games there are absolutely magnificent. You could do any genre there. You could have RPGs, you could have MMOs, FPSs. I'd love to see some China Mayville getting made into video games.
And yeah, I'll give a shout out to Charles Stross as well.
Yeah.
Another Scottish author, absolutely brilliant.
The Laundry novels would make a great series of video games.
Wow, fantastic. Well, Chris, Nick, thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak to us. It's been an absolute pleasure. This has been Stephen from GGS Gamer. Again, keep an eye out for us. We've got lots more coming up over the week. Keep a look out for Bedlam on Steam Early Access. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you later.